Hey guys, today on Watch with Poppy, we're excited because the Vampire Diaries is back. This is season 4, episode number 10, After School Special. Okay, so as this episode opens, we're at the school having a memorial service for Carol Lockwood. Because of course, the kind of cliffhanger ending of the last episode is that Klaus killed Mrs. Lockwood. He killed the mayor. He killed Tyler's mother. And so they're having this kind of funeral service for her. And we kind of get that officially the word is that her death was an accident. So I think they're kind of trying to say, you know, Carol had a little too much to drink and then tripped and fell into the pool. But unofficially, everyone in the know knows that, you know, Klaus killed Mrs. Lockwood. So, of course, that's a problem. One of the other big things that happened at the end of the last episode is that April undaggers Rebecca. So Rebecca is awake and back, and she's not the only original amongst us. Though there was no Elijah, and I was very sad about that because I'm ready for him to come back, but he was not here. It was all about Rebecca and her brother Cole, who have been undaggered. So Rebecca's back, and she's really kind of on the warpath. So basically, there's going to be some payback, and people better get ready for it. So while they're at this funeral service, Elena kind of leaves the service at one point and finds April crying in the hallway. And when she goes to kind of try to console her, it turns out that April, you know, has been listening to Rebecca's lies. And so Rebecca sneaks up behind Elena and snaps her neck. So when Elena wakes up, basically Rebecca compels her to kind of do whatever she wants her to do. And I almost kind of forgot that originals could do that because it's not something we've seen in a little while. That, you know, original vampires can compel other vampires. So anyway, she compels her and makes her stay there. And then she calls Stefan and is like, hey, I've got Elena, you need to come to the school. Now, of course, she doesn't realize what's been going on since she's been asleep, you know, that there's been a few changes, you know, but Stefan goes anyway because he's awesome. I love him. Stefan, my love. Now, before he shows up, of course, he was at the Mystic Grill having a drink because that seems like what Stefan does a lot these days. Now that, you know, he found out that Damon and Elena have slept together, then, yeah, he's drinking quite a lot, basically. But he shows up at the school anyway, and before you know it, he's there, Elena's there, and Caroline's there. And Rebecca has them all in the library, and she's got them sitting at the table, and she's basically compelled them all to do what she wants. Meanwhile, you know, Jeremy's still out at the cabin in his wife beater with Damon, and Matt's out there, and they're continuing to kind of train him. Damon's training him, trying to get him ready to kill some vampires, because of course, in order for his hunter's mark to spread, he has to kill vampires. And the whole point of them growing his hunter's mark is so they can figure out how to find this cure, basically. Okay, now back to the high school where Rebecca has, you know, Caroline and Stefan and Elena held captive. Rebecca starts to kind of fish for what's going on because she feels kind of this tenseness in the room. She doesn't realize that Elena slept with Damon, you know, she's like basically missed out on everything. So once she starts to realize something's going on, she starts to make them tell her the truth. You know, she starts to compel them each to answer her. And it was just such a, like, painful and heartbreaking scene, you know, like, and I'll give it up. Like, I'm sure that it was probably painful for Elena as much as it was painful for Stefan to hear, but my heart just broke for Stefan. Because, like, at one point, Rebecca says to Elena, tell me how you feel about Damon. And already you get that Stefan has been drinking just at the thought of the fact that, you know, Elena has slept with Damon. So for him to have to sit there and listen to her talk about how much she loves him and, you know, it just had to hurt. Here's a question for you guys, because I questioned it when it happened. At one point, Rebecca specifically asked her, tell me how you feel about him. And Elena says to her, I didn't sleep with him because of the sire bond, I slept with him because I love him. And I just wondered, like, you know, like, does the sire bond, like, trump compulsion? Or is that really the truth? Like, because she was compelled to say it, can she lie? I don't know. You know, the whole sire bond thing is, like, really kind of, like, blurry and a gray area, I think. Because, yes, I do think that Elena had feelings for Damon even before she was a vampire. So, yes, they may have been, like, you know, heightened by the sire bond and by the fact that she's a vampire. But, I don't know, I just don't get it, because she also was in love with Stefan, so why aren't those feelings heightened, you know? So, I don't understand it. Now, Bonnie, you know, has been meeting with Shane, and basically Shane finally tells her, you're done, you've graduated, and he gives her this, like, necklace that belonged to some witch thousands of years ago, and it was made from human bones. Hello, creepy. Very creepy. And she takes it and she leaves. And as she's leaving, she sees somebody going to see Shane. And as he goes past her, she realizes that it's Cole. And she rushes to try to help Shane, but by the time she gets there, he's gone. Cole has taken him. So Cole takes Shane to the school because Rebecca realizes, Shane is the one who's going to help me find the cure. I'm going to find the cure, I'm going to feed it to my brother, and then I'm going to kill him, basically. So she wants to find the cure first so that she can control it. So they start to kind of torture him a little bit, right? And Bonnie shows up at the school realizing what's going on, and she decides, I'm going to do a protection spell to kind of keep him safe. But what happens is she doesn't realize how strong she is, because remember, Bonnie hasn't done magic in really a long time, and she's been working with Shane to do this whole expression thing. But as she does this spell, April is in the room with her, and what happens is she inadvertently ties them together. So, Cole and Rebecca are basically drowning him and doing all these crazy things, and all of a sudden those things basically start to happen to April while she's in the room with Bonnie. So this is kind of a problem for Bonnie, of course, who's freaking out and trying to figure out what happened, right? So back to the room where Cole is at. Finally, Shane says something that really freaks him out. So Rebecca asks him, look, what do you even want the cure for? And he says, I don't want the cure, I want Silas. And you're kind of like, who? That's what I was like. I was like, am I supposed to know this person? So what we learned about the mysterious Silas in this episode is Shane called him the first immortal. So I'll be interested to find out what that means. And he also said that he is imprisoned with the cure. So it sounds like all along Shane has not been necessarily looking for the cure as much as he's been looking for the place where Silas is buried. Now, the interesting thing is the reaction that he gets when he says this name. Immediately Cole is just afraid, and Rebecca's just like, look, Silas is just a fantasy, he's not real. But Cole is scared enough that he actually just impales Shane with a pipe that he finds in the corner, because he's just pretty much like, you need to die right now so that you cannot awaken Silas. Because what comes out is that kind of all of this stuff that's been going on, the 12 council members that died, the 12 hybrids that were slaughtered, all of that is a part of Shane's kind of plan to help to awaken Silas. I guess it's kind of all a part of the spell that will make that happen. And Bonnie's obviously a part of that as well. Once again, Bonnie's getting kind of thrown into a situation that doesn't have anything to do with her. Welcome to Mystic Falls. So we think that Shane is dead, right? So what happens though is that Bonnie was doing a protection spell for Shane, and it does work. So Shane doesn't die, and neither does April. And later when they're talking, he tells Bonnie basically she doesn't know her own strength. So that's how she kind of accidentally ended up tying April into the spell, because she didn't realize how powerful she was. So it sounds like, Bonnie's kind of witchy goodness is back and in full effect, and even more powerful than it was before. Another kind of Bonnie side story we got is that her dad is now the acting mayor, and it seems like he's kind of gonna be a bit of a tough cookie. He obviously knows about the vampires, he knows that his daughter's a witch, and at the end of the episode, we find April going to see him and the sheriff to basically tell him everything she knows, and she's all like, my father never would have killed himself, and she tells them that Shane did it, and you get that she's all like, I'm gonna find the truth, I'm gonna get people to tell the truth, whatever, she just annoyed me, but that's what she did. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what exactly Bonnie's dad's gonna do about all of that. Now, back to the school for just a second too, back to the table of pain, as I'm calling it, where Rebecca's basically making everyone confess everything. At one point too, Rebecca kind of asks Elena, how does Damon make you feel? And then she makes her kind of compare that to how Stefan makes her feel. And Elena kind of is like, Damon makes her feel free and wild and all this kind of stuff. And Stefan makes her feel like she's a project. And in the end, she ends up kind of confessing that she loves Stefan, but that she's not in love with him anymore. It was just awful. Just a painful, painful scene. And Rebecca I just was yelling at the screen at that point, because it was just I couldn't believe that she was making them do that. So then she's not done with her dastardly deeds. She calls Tyler, tells him, look, I've got your girl here. You need to come to the school. He shows up. She compels him to change. And then she tells the rest of them, you can't leave the school, but you can run around from the werewolf, because he's going to change and then he's going to bite you and you're going to die. So they're all running, right, from Tyler, and they're locking themselves in rooms and stuff. And Elena ends up in the same room with Stefan. And And then he closes the door, locks the door to, like, you know, try to keep the werewolf out. And then all of a sudden, you know, you hear Elena say Stefan's name, and she says it in that kind of, we need to talk voice, right? And it's like, I was so just like, really? Like, this is the moment that you want to have that conversation? Because we're not doing anything. We're not running from a crazed werewolf for our lives. So yes, let us stop and talk about our feelings right now. It just annoyed me because I was already annoyed with Elena throughout this episode and throughout this entire season so far. I've been annoyed with her. So she is continuing in that vein. And there was more soul crushing, of course, because Stefan is just like, no, like, we are not having this discussion now. I do not want to talk to you. I do not want to talk about it. Like, basically, what do you want to do? Do you want to rip my heart out some more? And she's all just like, I didn't mean, and all this other crap. And it was just like, whatever, Elena. But once Rebecca and Cole kill Shane, or think they kill Shane, Rebecca kind of realizes that she's killed her only lead in finding the cure, and so she's kind of done playing her little game. So she finds these two in the room having a discussion, and then she's just kind of like, you can go. And then the, like, kind of ultimate, like, heartbreaker of this episode, as if we haven't had enough. She turns to Stefan, Rebecca does, and she says to him, basically, I'll make you forget. Like, if you want me to take away the memory of every time you've ever kissed Elena, all of the time you spent together, your whole relationship, I will compel you to forget it all. And Stefan says, do it. And it was just like, when he said it, I was just like, oh, Stefan, man. And he was just at that point where he was just like, take it away, basically. Like, I would rather live that way. But, of course, we know Rebecca is just playing games, and she's not really going to do it because she wants him to suffer, and she tells him that. And I think she also wants Elena to know, like, you know, look how he really feels in this moment. He would rather forget you than kind of deal with the pain. So it was just a completely kind of painful episode for all of us Delana fans. Meanwhile, in Delana land, there's lots of good things going on. First of all, Elena is leaving Damon these, like, super sappy and needy voicemail messages. It's just like, come on, right? But he's, like, loving it, so he's listening to them over and over again while he's training Jeremy. And then finally, towards the end of the episode, she ends up calling him, and they talk on the phone, and she tells him that she loves him, right? And just the look on his face was just like, oh... Like, you could just see that he's been kind of dying for that. But I think also, you know, Damon is really kind of gung-ho to get the cure now because he wants to hear those words from Elena, but he wants to know that they're real. My problem with what's happening right now is it just continues to feel really fakey. And I'm not just saying that because I like Stefan. Like, I don't know, it just feels weird and wrong and really forced and really quick, so... I feel like there's something coming for that, so I think, you know, all you Delana fans better probably get control of yourself and get ready for that. So back out to the cabin where Jeremy's been training, Klaus shows up and is not really excited that Jeremy hasn't really killed any vampires recently. And so, of course, he decides to do something about that. And at the end of the episode, you see Damon, Matt, and Jeremy kind of walk into this restaurant, and everyone is dead. And Klaus is sitting at the bar. And basically, Klaus has killed everyone in the restaurant, turned them all into vampires. And, you know, as the episode ends, you see them starting to move and awake, and you get that Jeremy's basically going to have to kill them all. And, you know, when he does that, his mark is going to grow, of course. The map will grow, and they'll figure out where the cure is at. So one of my favorite parts of this episode was towards the end, and it was the formation of the We Hate Our Brothers Club. And this club has two members. One of them is Stefan Salvatore, and the other one is Rebecca Michelson. So yeah, you know, the two of them kind of get together at the end, and you kind of get that they're going to kind of join forces together to try to find the cure so that they can control it. Stefan still wants to find the cure because he still wants to really know the truth. I think there's a part of him that still thinks that Elena is under the sire bond, that's why she's doing the things she's doing. But it's kind of one of those things, too, where even if he does find it for her, will that really undo everything that's been done, you know? It's kind of a tough call there. I thought it was a really good episode. There were lots of twists and turns and new kind of things and hints about what's coming. And I've been hearing a lot of buzz about episode 12. This was episode number 10 of this season. So I've been hearing, not next week, but the week after that, I've heard that there are some serious bombshells that are coming in that episode. So... game changers, I've heard. So I'm excited to see what's going to be happening. Okay, guys, as always, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Bye.